Hey yo, what is going on, you guys? It's your boy, AceoxReacts! And I'm back with another reaction. This time I'm going to react to Oblivion's Mad Radiant AI by Shades of Slay. I have never seen a Shades of Slay video before, so I'm excited to see what his video making style is, and I'm interested to learn about the Radiant AI in Oblivion. I know that it isn't what Todd Howard claimed it would be. You know, with them having full routines, daily routines and stuff like that. And also the intelligence part is up for debate, but yeah. Oblivion is one of my favorite Elder Scrolls game ever. I don't know why. It's far from perfect, actually. The characters are ugly as hell. The main story is meh. The fact that you can fast travel everywhere is, yeah, extremely dumbed down. And also, the enemy leveling is like, no. Why? Why did you do that, Todd Howard? Why? You know, I really don't like it when games have enemies level up with you, because at that point it's just like, why am I even leveling up at all? You know, if I'm not getting stronger against the enemies, then what's the point? Why am I leveling up? Why? Just don't do that, man. Don't do that. But for some reason, I still really like it. I especially love the Shivering Isles DLC. I played that like a lot. I explored everything there is to explore in that DLC, and I just really love it. I just can't figure out why I like Oblivion as much as I do, but yeah, maybe that's for another time to try and figure out, for me at least. I'm not gonna bother you with me yapping on endlessly trying to find out why I like Oblivion. Yeah, so thank me, go on, thank me, bitch, thank me. But yeah, Shades of Slay, like I said, I've never seen a video by him before. So this is a first time reacting to his videos and seeing it in general. Not just a reaction video, but also in general. So I don't know what to expect. But I'm positive that it's gonna be good, because so far it's 10 for 10, you know? Not a single video I picked out was not to my liking. You know, a random video I picked out to react to. So yeah, I'm excited. And before we get into it, like always, go into the video description, click the first link in the video description under the credits tab to get to the original video by Shades of Slay. Leave him a like, leave him a comment, tell him good day. Stop right there, criminal scum! Then pay with your blood! Have you heard of the High Elves? Tell him that. And before we actually start, let me quickly preemptively mention something. In case you hear some beeping or some weird sounds in the background, I don't know who the fuck is working out there, but some goddamn vehicle, you know, the vehicles that beep when they drive backwards is working outside, right outside my goddamn apartment for some reason. Right now, while I wanna record and shit like that. I don't know why, but yeah, we just gotta bear with it. I gotta make the most out of the time I have, so I can't wait until they're gone. So I'm just gonna start and just let you know, if you hear something, that's them, not me. Shut up, they're listening right now. Alright, so I zoomed out and scrolled up. So without further ado, finally, here we go!
Oblivion holds a special place in my heart.
Same for me.
Because of the standard bumf people go on about something like this. Oblivion has long been praised by fans and critics alike for its engaging gameplay, compelling storyline and detailed character development. Its vast open world and intricate quest lines set a new standard for open world RPGs, cementing its place as one of the defining games of its era. Which is all true, of course. I love all those things about Oblivion as much as the next fan, but what gives Oblivion its special place in my heart is its cookie charm, utter jankiness, and ability to play host to some absolutely madcap emergent gameplay. And
hell yeah. I agree with that. That's
this video.
I like that too.
Chaotic, oftentimes wonderfully unpredictable, radiant artificial intelligence system. So we're going to take a look at it, the history behind it.
I saw a video, I don't know, I couldn't find it anymore, but it was during the Corona lockdown. There was, someone uploaded a Corona finally reached Oblivion or something like that. And it was just the characters running around and coughing in each other's faces for some reason. That's I really like that about Oblivion, you know, the really unpredictable character AI stuff, the NPC stuff. It's just, the interactions are just absolutely hilarious at times. So I definitely, yeah, I think he just answered why I like Oblivion as much as I do. Because of the jankiness. It's so unpredictable. It's actually, you know, the randomness of everything just makes it so real in a way, you know? Because it's definitely not intended to be that way, but it kind of is. And that makes it interesting. It's not a very linear game because the goddamn AI is unpredictable as hell. And also, I don't know what it is, but the graphics, especially the world design and everything, and the HUD design, the HUD design, you know, everything. It's like, I really like it. Compared to Skyrim, you know, Skyrim is just snow, gray, and the HUD is just so minimalistic. I really like the Oblivion one because it feels like a drawn one. It's so, I don't think mostly it isn't drawn, but it looks like it. It looks like it. And I think these things just add to the charm of the game. Maybe that's why I like it so much. That could be the reason. That could very well be the reason. Yeah.
How it was originally meant to be something far more complicated than what we got in the end, and how the original builds caused complete mayhem when playtested, and how what remains is still so completely
I did not know that.
Charming beyond belief. And I'll probably throw in some fantastic insights from the developers way back when they were trying to implement the system. If,
Alright.
like me, you've spent an ungodly amount of time in Cyrodiil, you'll have seen the final form of Oblivion's radiant AI in action many times. You might have been amused by a guard killing an NPC only for them to walk away and return to the body, shouting that there's been a murder. You come across another town guard brutally executing a seemingly desperate citizen over something as trivial as stealing food. Or you yourself have accidentally picked up an object in a tavern.
Goddamn it,
The NPCs in there to rush you.
I mean, it totally adds to the charm. I mean, you can kick around all the stuff in the shops and everything, and they won't bat an eye. But as soon as you just lift it up, you don't even put it in the inventory, you just lift it up, they immediately start attacking you and calling the guards, and the guards always jump scary. They always, without fail, jump scare you by walking up to you out of nowhere and being like, "Stop right there, criminal scum! You have committed crimes against whatever the fuck! Then pay with your blood!" And then they attack you on, when you attack them, they go like, "Ah! Oh! Ah!" Or when you put a poisoned apple in an NPC's inventory and they decide to eat it. the stone-faced look while they eat it, and the grunt sounds is just... it's perfect. And then they die. Oh man, I love this game. I definitely know what I'm gonna do after this video is finished. I'm gonna play some Oblivion because I love it. I love it. It's so good. It's so dumb. It's so random. It's perfect. It's perfect for me. I love it. I so fucking love it, man.
Zombie horde style, wanting nothing more than your immediate demise.
Yeah.
The game's AI has led to absolutely countless bizarre and often hilarious moments. To be honest, this is, in my opinion, a massive part of what's secured Oblivion's beloved place in gaming history. Radiant
definitely.
is just so memeable. And the thing is, it truly is.
I mean, there are channels dedicated to only uploading clips of the AI in Oblivion doing random funny stuff. There are entire channels dedicated to that, and they have hundreds of videos. It's crazy. I love it. I wish we had something like that nowadays. But the jankiness nowadays is just, you know, it's just unfinished game, buggy mess. You can't finish, you can't complete a game you can't complete because it's so buggy. Game-breaking stuff, you know, just stuff that isn't fun. I want goofy stuff like that. Come on, Todd Howard. Who the fuck cares about Starfield? I don't give a shit. Make the new Elder Scrolls with a Radiant AI that's poorly programmed so it does some random funny stuff all the time. Give us that stuff back, man. I want that. Please. Who's laughing now? I was in the chess club. Got the Todd Howard, man.
AI. Sure, it isn't to the level of the chatbots we have nowadays or potential future AI advancements.
Obviously, it's not even close.
It was something incredibly advanced, especially for the time.
The unpredictableness.
Even so far as using the Wayback Machine for this quote from Bethesda programmer Steve Meister, which I think was given in the early 2000s, though I can't confirm exactly when. Read about AI and you'll find things very similar to what we're doing. The reason it's AI and not scripting is because it uses goals and rules to determine how something is accomplished. The designer establishes the goals, sets parameters such as responsibility, aggression,
that makes sense,
and leaves it up to the rules that have been established in the code to determine how the behaviour plays out. It is most definitely artificial intelligence in the academic sense of the word. It's not a neural net. NPCs don't learn. But that's not the all-encompassing definition of the field of artificial intelligence anyway.
Oh, okay, I did not know that.
Has said, and that
All
it
right.
shows such amazing ambition. What were the goals here? Why were they wanting to implement such a system? And why is it called Radiant? It's important for us to understand that before we dig into the pitfalls of its creation and what the final form of Radiant AI looked like. According to the developers, their goal was to create a world where NPCs weren't static background characters standing around waiting for the player to engage with them. Instead,
make
they wanted
the
to build
world
a
just
dynamic,
feel so real.
where every NPC had their own personality, objectives, and daily routine. Whether they were merchants, guards, citizens, or even bandits, each NPC would have a role to fulfill, complete with a schedule and the ability to interact with others around them. According to an interview Todd Howard gave way back.
You know, I think what made Elder Scrolls always so special to me, the entire series, is how ambitious they were. I don't know if they're gonna continue down that road. I mean, the past couple Bethesda games, it wasn't that good. And usually they fall short of what they want to achieve. And that usually ends up with the Bethesda charm we all know and love, or at least I know and love. Because, you know, they're trying their best. They're trying their best to do stuff with limited resources, and obviously they did not have enough resources back then to achieve what they wanted to achieve with the NPCs in Oblivion. Because, I mean, they had like, what, 10 different voice actors who pretty much voice acted every goddamn character in the game. And also, they made the voice actors record the takes in alphabetical order rather than, you know, the actual dialogue order, which creates some hilarious unintended side effects, like, for example, someone telling a really dramatic story and then going like, "Oh, thank you, kind sir." Like, "Have you heard of this dog thing, blah, blah, blah? The necromancers are going crazy. Oh, thank you, kind sir." Like, stuff like that. So it's really out of context, ripped out of context, these lines, and it's just beautiful. It's beautiful. And I think that's what the charm is about Bethesda games. You know, they're trying to make something they want to make with the limited amount of resources they at least had back then, and fail, but also kind of succeed in a different way. Not the way they intended, but in a more out of their hands way, if that makes sense. You know, people liking the jankiness because it's kind of charming. It's like, you know, seeing a small developer trying really hard to create something really ambitious and kind of getting there, but also kind of not. And it's kind of charming in that regard. And unless, of course, it's, for example, a AAA company, then there's no excuse for them why they did not achieve what they wanted to achieve with the resources they have. And then I think the charming jankiness turns into just jankiness. And that's what we see from Bethesda nowadays with Fallout 76 and Starfield and stuff like that. And I don't know about Elder Scrolls Online. I never played it, so I can't really speak on that. But yeah, old Bethesda, man. I love them. They were great. Now they're just a big corporation that shits out just janky stuff, and there's no excuse for them to shit out janky stuff with the huge amount of resources they have. I mean, they were bought by Microsoft, goddammit. There's no excuse for the games to be this janky nowadays, yet they still are, and that's why I don't like the newer games. Yeah, it's the context that matters.
Sometime around 2004 or 2005. Using the Radiant AI system, we have the ability to do things on a larger scale. Where other games' NPCs require individual scripting, we can simply provide our NPCs.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Our system allows them to think on their own and complete the task.
And that's what creates this jankiness, this sweet jankiness.
Scale. And beyond that, it was about how the system would make the player feel. Radiant AI was supposed to make NPCs behave in a way that felt organic, allowing them to live their lives independently of the player's actions. Todd continues again,
and it kind of worked.
The other thing it does is give the game a more organic feel than scripting could. NPCs won't always be standing there doing the exact same thing at the same time. The fact that your experience and what's going on in the world around you in your game is a bit different than other people is pretty cool. The conversations you'll overhear,
it is really cool.
You'll be able to get as a result will vary. It makes the world feel much more realistic and alive.
Yeah, that's what I said in the beginning.
Responsibility. That sounds incredibly vague, but in essence, each NPC in Oblivion has an internal attribute known as responsibility, which dictates their moral compass, or lack thereof. Characters with low responsibility, such as bandits and thieves, have little regard for laws and will steal from or attack others without hesitation. But this behaviour isn't limited to criminals. If a hungry NPC needs food and they're desperate enough, and their responsibility score allows it, they might decide to go hunting. In theory, this is completely logical. In execution, it means wandering into the wilderness and attempting to fight a wolf, a bear, or even a mountain lion.
But that
Inevitably,
didn't
you'll
work,
stumble
right?
across a bandit's corpse, the unfortunate result of a poor life choice dictated by AI logic. This is a definite example of emergent gameplay going on without the...
Because it did not work that way, right? Because I don't remember a beggar going outside and hunting. So in theory, it's the theory behind it, right? How they envisioned it to work. But it actually didn't end up working like that, right? Also, what I really liked about Oblivion is the fact that you can kill pretty much everyone and fuck up your game. Yeah, it's great. It's perfect. It really lets you have an experience rather than, you know, playing through a linear story or, you know, a linear game in general. And instead, it just gives you this almost D&D-like experience, you know, where it's very customizable in a way, because it feels like it's written while it is happening, you know what I mean? It's random, it's cool, it's realistic. Hold on, I gotta take a sip from my Coca-Cola because I have cotton mouth. Good sugar water, baby. But yeah, I don't think they achieved that, right? Because like I said, I've never seen a beggar do that stuff. Yeah.
Player needing to be part of it at all, and is still something that can be seen in the final release version of the game.
Really?
On the opposite end of the spectrum, high responsibility NPCs such as town guards have an unwavering sense of duty and an almost comical dedication to upholding the law. Theft, no matter how minor, is not tolerated one bit. The punishment for picking up an unattended apple? Death. NPCs caught committing a crime won't be given a chance to explain themselves, nor will they have the option to pay a fine. Since Bethesda never implemented a system where NPCs could settle their bounties, the only resolution is for the guards to kill them on sight.
Damn.
Again, this amusing situation is one that can still be witnessed to this day.
Yeah, true. That I saw a lot.
Charm. During development, however, the system had a tendency to spiral into complete anarchy. This was because the NPCs were given a lot more freedom than they ended up with in the release version of the game. While NPCs did sleep, eat, and perform their assigned duties at specific times like in the final game.
I think that the biggest issue with an AI like that probably is, maybe that's also the reason why they had to dial it back, because I think it can get very frustrating very quickly when stuff happens while the player isn't even aware it's happening. Like, you know, two NPCs beefing with one another, one who is going to give you a quest, and then suddenly get a pop-up and it says the quest giver has died, and you're like, huh? What? Who died? Why did it die? That's my guess, you know, like having stuff run in the background independent of the player can be a bad thing, because it can make you lose out on experiences like quest lines and stuff like that without even you realizing that it happened, you know? So that's my guess. Maybe that it did that. Started killing each other and suddenly you had no quests left. Could be. That's my guess why they dialed it back. Let's hear it.
This earlier version of Radiant AI gave them the ability to make their own decisions to a whole new degree. This meant they could act on impulse, choosing how to achieve their goals based on the world around them with very little in the way of restrictions. And when you give a non-playable character absolute free will,
that sounds crazy.
Rarely predictable. NPCs were capable of taking actions that Bethesda developers may not have entirely accounted for, and more often than not, these actions led to absolute chaos. Before Oblivion was released, Bethesda realized that they had to contend with just how unpredictable Radiant AI could be. At its most extreme, the system was so out of control that it threatened to derail the entire game. Bethesda quickly realized that without some restrictions, the AI could cause absolute mayhem. Left unchecked, it went far, far beyond NPCs adding a bit of flavour and immersion to the world. It was a case of them completely breaking it. Like many games of
that's what I thought.
Even today, to be honest, Oblivion promised somewhat more than it ultimately delivered.
Most Bethesda games did that.
Bethesda spoke at length about its revolutionary Radiant AI system, an ambitious attempt to create NPCs that could think for themselves, adapt to situations, and interact with the world in ways that felt real. The goal.
Yeah, but I think normally I don't like it when people advertise something and it doesn't turn out the way they advertise it. That's just scummy usually. But you know, the way Todd Howard is just, you know, such a funny character as a person that it adds to the charm for some reason. Because he's like, who's laughing now? You hear that dude being so self-assured and stuff like that while also being a nerdy nerd. And then you compare what he promised with what we actually got, and it's just it adds to the humor, you know. It makes it 10 times more memeable in my opinion. So yeah, normally I don't like when people promise stuff that don't, you know, end up being in the final product. But in that case, there's a hypocrisy of mine, you know. I can't speak. Shut up. I can't speak. I don't know why. My brain doesn't work. Stop shitting in my face, or I'm gonna eat your poo-poo. Poo-poo. Chocolate doo-doo. Would you eat chocolate that tastes like shit or shit that tastes like chocolate? I would eat both.
Goal clearly went far beyond simply adding personality to NPCs. It was about giving them autonomy. They would simply wait around for the player to engage with them. They would have desires, needs, and the ability to make their own decisions to satisfy those needs. The problem? It worked too well.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, it's not a game, it's a simulation.
I realized that Radiant AI was so advanced that NPCs were taking their autonomy to game-breaking extremes. I managed to find another page on the Wayback Machine where an unnamed developer shared some stories. In early builds of the game, guards weren't simply stationed around towns, they worked as a unit. If one got hungry and decided to wander off in search of food, the rest of the guards followed, leaving entire settlements completely unprotected.
Damn!
There were no guards, NPCs with low responsibility scores, thieves, bandits, and other opportunistic criminals took full advantage of the situation, looting shops and homes freely. If caught, they would be attacked, which often led to a chain reaction of escalating violence. What started as a minor theft could end in a bloodbath, leaving the player to stumble upon a town filled with corpses, all because one guard decided he wanted a sandwich. It wasn't
but that sounds actually funny.
Out of control either. Some NPCs were given goals that they had to complete no matter the cost. An NPC assigned to rake leaves and another assigned to sweep paths worked fine until they swapped tools. The raker, now with a broom, and the sweeper, now with a rake, could not complete their tasks correctly. One eventually killed the other to obtain the correct tool. Included one Minotaur was assigned to guard a unicorn. However, because it was an aggressive creature, it repeatedly tried to kill the unicorn instead of protecting it. And in another, a tester dropped the Skull of Corruption, a magical item that creates evil copies of NPCs on the ground. An NPC picked it up and used it on the player character and created a duplicate of said player character. This duplicate then went on a killing spree, attacking every NPC in sight. Damn! Of Radiant AI's pre-release insanity that still seems to be talked about more memorably today comes from Oblivion's Dark Brotherhood questline. In a story shared by Emil Pagliarulo about one particular mission, the player was meant to meet a shady merchant who sold skooma. But during testing, developers kept running into the same problem. The merchant was already dead before the player could reach him, because the game's skooma addicts programmed to need their fix had gotten to him first. If he had skooma, they would buy it. If he ran out, they would kill him. As a result, the entire quest was impossible to complete because the dealer never lived long enough to sell it anything. Emil spoke further about this issue on a broader scale, describing the AI as so advanced that it actively broke the game.
Yeah, that's what I want to say. It sounds very game-breaking.
Tone down the types of behaviour they carry out. Again, why? Because sometimes the AI is so damn smart and determined it screws up our quests.
Yeah.
Seriously, sometimes it's gotten so weird it's like dealing with a holodeck that's gone sentient. Imagine playing The Sims and your Sims have a penchant for murder and theft. So a lot of the time this stuff is funny and amazing and emergent and it's awesome when it happens. Other times it's so unexpected it breaks stuff. Designers need a certain amount of control over the scenarios they create, and things can go haywire when NPCs have a mind of their own.
Yeah,
Bethesda
it's like I said, you know, if you give them too much independence and everything, then at that point it's not a game anymore because it cannot function like a normal curated game, you know? It functions more like a simulation. It just simulates a living world in that case and not a game. It's like in the real world. All the experiences you can experience, like for example, let's say going to a zoo. It's a curated experience, meaning people, you know, decided what animals to put in the zoo and where to put them, where to build the cages, and also how to take care of them at which time and whatever and stuff like that. And also created, you know, pathways for the people that go there to experience the zoo to get around easily and see everything. And they also put these souvenir shops at special points where the most people get through, so they can maximize profit and everything. So yeah, it is a very curated experience. If you didn't curate it at all and instead just put animals in a zoo and do nothing, people would die. People would die, and at that point, no. We can't have that, no. Imagine just creating a big wall in a big circle and a door and then placing a lot of wild animals in there. They're gonna kill each other and then they're gonna kill everyone, every human that walks in. And at that point, it's just chaos. There's no experience, there's just chaos. And that's pretty much why the Radiant AI did not work in that state, because at that point, it was a simulation. It was a simulation of life rather than a game, a curated experience, a linear-ish experience with story beats and everything. So yeah, I can definitely see why they had to tone it down. But I would love to see, I don't know, a standalone or something with the Radiant AI in full effect, you know? And then just have that as a side mode or something. That would have been cool. You know, like a separate instance of Oblivion. Like, I don't know, Oblivion Simulation, which you can start, or you can just play the normal Oblivion version we got. And if you start it, then it's basically the same, except the Radiant AI is as advanced as it was in the beginning. That would be cool. Having a little extra, but yeah, I mean, the game is old. The game is really old, so Steam wasn't even a thing back then. So yeah, but then again, hold on, they could have easily put that on a CD and have two separate EXEs or something, you know? Or even put it inside the game. Hold on, what the fuck am I talking about? They could have just, you know, make a button that loads into that. God damn it! What the shit, man? What am I talking about? But yeah, at that point, you know, it's a simulation, and that is unpredictable and cannot be played normally like a curated game. So yeah, I definitely see the potential of issues they definitely experienced during playtesting and everything. So yeah, I understand now. I understand.
Really had no choice but to tone things down.
Yeah.
Left as it was, Oblivion's world would have been an unpredictable mess of self-inflicted disasters, and even if it was absolutely hilarious, it probably would have been completely unplayable.
Yeah.
And yet, there's something amazingly compelling about what might have been.
Yeah,
To imagine a version of Oblivion where NPCs weren't restricted at all, where cities would collapse into anarchy and chaos because one skooma addict started a riot, where quest givers had to shut down because they were too busy stealing junk from someone's house.
Yeah.
Nobles and bodyguards could end up killing each other over something as minuscule as a stolen loaf of bread.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Forums about the possibility of restoring Radiant AI to its original form, but I myself haven't been able to find anything that truly does it. I'm going to ask here at this junction, if anyone knows of a really good mod that does it, let me know.
I don't know. I never played mods on Oblivion.
With that being said, it's tantalizing.
I only played vanilla.
A version of Oblivion with fully unleashed Radiant AI exists somewhere in Bethesda's archives. And if there's truly any justice in this crazy universe we all inhabit, one day they'll let us see it. Or maybe it'll appear sort of like that PSP build. However it appears, if it ever does, whether through archive
I don't think so.
An as good as the real thing mod, I'd be itching to see what the chaotic world of Proto-Radiant AI looked like. In any case,
I would like to see it too, but I don't think that's going to happen.
A bit like trying to recapture Frankenstein's monster after he's been let loose. Bethesda had to make a choice between maintaining that structure or embracing the chaos. They chose structure. Even then, the final version of
Yeah, but-
Oblivion's Radiant AI that we ended up
I think it was a correct choice because they set out to sell a game, not a simulation, right? And I know I keep saying simulation, but I don't know another word that fits perfectly for that. I mean, obviously you could have a simulation type game that also exists, you know, like the garden simulator or whatever the fuck, you know, stuff like that. But I mean more like, you know, a curated game versus a simulation type game, you know. That's what I mean. I just wanted to clarify that. But yeah, they set out to make a curated game, and obviously Radiant AI to that degree does not fit in there. It's gonna break stuff. It's like, you know, even in D&D there are some rules and regulations, so you can't completely derail the entire game. So yeah, you always have to make compromises in that regard and put in limitations and stuff like that and restrict the individual's freedom in that regard, so to speak. Whatever the fuck. Yeah. So I think they did the right thing. I mean, the simulation type Oblivion sounds hilarious, but it probably would have gotten old pretty quickly at some point. And I'd rather take the half-baked Radiant AI in the current version of the game over the very autonomous versions any day, because, you know, I got probably 100 or so hours out of the game already because I keep replaying it and stuff like that, and there's so much to do. And I'd rather take that experience than, I don't know, half an hour of fun messing around with a living Oblivion world and then never touching it again because it's too unpredictable. But I would love to see a game which has NPCs like that, and be it an online game, you know, where other players are playing as well. Because what I really don't like about online games is how the NPCs in MMORPGs and stuff like that, they're static. They don't do anything. They just stand around and give you a quest, and that's it. And it always feels so goddamn pointless. That's why I never pay attention to the story of an MMORPG, because, you know, there's stuff like, damn, you saved the world, yeah. And then the next guy appears and finishes the quest, and they're like, yeah, you saved the world, yeah. Meanwhile, I thought I did save the world. What happened? You know, the world doesn't change. It's just not even a sandbox. It's just a game board. That's it. Yeah. Game board. A board game. Game board. The board of a game, of a board game. There we go. Yeah. And I would like to see an evolving world in an MMORPG. There has to be something like that, right? I mean, stuff like, you know, Rust, but with NPCs as well, you know? So players can create stuff, and the NPCs also autonomously do stuff, and it evolves because of them. That would be so cool, man. That would be cool. But then again, it would only take a singular bad actor who runs around and kills every NPC, and then there are no NPCs left. So yeah, I see definitely there are a lot of things that can go wrong, but at that point, it just, you know, might make it PvP and no PvE, so players cannot kill them or stuff like that. But yeah, I'm rambling. Shut the fuck up, AceoX. Let's continue.
up with has a charm. It still allows us as a player to track NPC movements with some very long routines, see them interact with their environment, and witness the consequences of their actions to a certain degree. It makes the world feel interconnected, and it still allows, on occasion, some of the AI's quirks to pop up. And that quirkiness, reined in as it is a huge part of what makes Oblivion special for me. Sure, the version of Radiant AI
I agree with that.
make it into the final release of Oblivion wasn't quite the wild, unsupervised experiment Bethesda originally envisioned. The system was stripped back and reined in, leaving behind a structured yet somewhat unpredictable AI system that dictated how NPCs behaved. Instead of the dreamed of fully dynamic world where characters would act freely, NPCs were given schedules rather than absolute autonomy. While the NPCs
I think that was the right decision to make.
boring form simply to serve the player, their actions were now carefully constrained within a set of rules designed to stop them from burning Cyrodiil to the ground. But as mentioned earlier,
it sounds really interesting though.
Here's an example.
Just imagining
NPCs
them burning down the entire city.
eating at a certain time each day, sleeping at night, or going to work. How they achieve those goals depends on their responsibility score, something we looked at earlier, a hidden value between 0 and 100 that determines how law-abiding they are. NPCs with the low score, 30 or below, would steal if they needed something and had no other way to obtain it, and if they got caught, in the final build, there's still no negotiation, no second chances. The guards will still kill them on the spot, just as we saw in earlier builds. And even with the reined-in Radiant AI, a big part of what makes Oblivion so fascinating is that it invites you to watch the NPCs. In video games, where the player is usually meant to be the main force driving the world forward, Oblivion instead encourages a bit of passive observation. In fact, it even builds a quest around the concept, a very famous quest which you'll all know about, but I'll tell you about it anyway. A paranoid elf named Glarthier enlists the player to stalk his supposed enemies and report back. Now,
oh yeah, okay, now I remember. I was like, huh? What?
Another between-the-lines purpose. Similarly to some of the quests in Goodsprings and Fallout New Vegas, it teaches the player how the mechanics work and how Radiant AI works. It shows that NPCs do have routines, habits, and patterns of behaviour that exist outside the player's direct influence. And once you've learned about those mechanics and you start to watch other NPCs in the game, you begin to soak up the total quirkiness that still remains in Oblivion. And I absolutely love it. For example,
yeah, I love it too.
They
just following them around sometimes can lead to some really funny stuff.
To their mouth for an hour while sitting in a tavern before suddenly standing up and walking home. Yeah, they talk to each other, but the conversations are robotic, endlessly looping through the same scripted dialogue with no real sense of communication happening between them, and it can be quite funny. Bethesda's grand.
Yeah, I mean, there are many instances where I experienced two NPCs walking up to each other and going like, hello there, and how are you? And then goodbye. And then the other was like, goodbye. And then hello there, and how are you? You know, like saying goodbye and then immediately resuming the conversation. That happens so much. I love it. That's definitely something I completely forgot about, but I used to, you know, follow some NPCs around every now and then in the game back in the day, and I have experienced some really funny stuff because of that. For some reason, completely forgot about that. That's also a reason why I like the game. Definitely. Most definitely. But yeah, I'm gonna take a quick break. I'll be back in a second. You won't even realize it. So shut up. Alright, and I'm back. See, I told you. You wouldn't even have known that I took a break if I hadn't told you. And I've been gone for like half an hour or so. So, you're a stupid poopy head. Heh, fuck you. Alright, let's continue.
And vision for the living world was ultimately too ambitious for the game's technology, and so what's left is kind of an uncanny imitation of life, especially given that their total freedom build of Radiant AI nearly caused a purge-like reality to overwhelm Cyrodiil. What remains in the game is like a simulation built by something that doesn't really understand how humans work. Look at it this way.
Yeah.
If you described human behavior to an alien and asked it to create a game world based on those descriptions, the result probably would look something like Oblivion. And it's beautiful. And why is it so beautiful? Well, we'd need to look at some of the other hidden NPC behaviors that still remain in the final game. Things the game never tells you about. Things that most players will never notice. All over Cyrodiil, there are characters who are secretly having affairs, for example. If you follow them, you'll find them sneaking into other people's houses, sleeping in beds they shouldn't be in. There are skooma addicts who make the monthly pilgrimages from their home cities to Bravo, where they meet in the hidden den to take skooma with the other addicts before returning home 2 days later. These actions are quest-related, strictly speaking.
Damn, okay.
They serve no greater purpose in the game's story.
I didn't know that.
For them to do this, and yet they do. If this is happening in the game world, if these events are taking place without the player's knowledge, then it begs the player to question, what else is happening? What other potential unseen stories are unfolding beyond our reach? This is the kind of possibility and immersion that I'm always searching for in RPGs. I'm sad to say that I'm not sure I'll ever find something quite as quirky as Oblivion ever again.
Yeah, I don't think...
saddens me.
No, we won't find something like that.
Oblivion even exists at all. The idea that a game world exists beyond what we can see, that it continues functioning whether we're watching or not, is intoxicating. It's the same concept that has driven the recent developments in AI in the last few years, the desire to create artificial life, to bring something into existence that can function independently. And sure, we could go around the houses arguing as to whether AI is any good or whether it's actually going to cause massive problems and the moral implications and so on and so on.
Well, I mean, it's going to be good and bad, like everything. There are good things and bad things that are going to happen from that. But I'll focus mainly on the positive things, even though AI, I find it quite scary. Because I can see so many possibilities of how it can be abused for nefarious gains and everything. But I try to force myself to think positively about it because there are so many things it could maybe improve our lives in. Word. yeah. Just, imagine, like, well, I mean, AI could help us, right? Radiant AI like this in Oblivion, but better. It could help us with that. That's cool. That's cool. Or it could tell us, I don't know, how to efficiently make use of something, Just throw a bunch of data at it and let it do the work and figure out how to streamline everything. I mean, that sounds kind of useful, right? And I hope for video editing we'll get something like that. Because there's some processes I really dislike about making videos, which is, for example, cutting out the silences. I have a lot of silences even inside a goddamn sentence like this one, for example, because I cannot talk. I don't know. I keep trying, I keep practicing with these videos, but I can't seem to think ahead of my talking, I cannot think ahead. So at some point my talking catches up to my thoughts, and then I gotta take a quick break to think ahead. It sucks. My brain is fucking slow. And just having an AI help me do with that, like just cut out everything that's quiet, and then boom, it saved me like, I don't know, an hour or so of working. Okay, not maybe that much, but yeah, still. And maybe, like have it analyze my takes and stuff like that, and then just taking the best. Because sometimes I start sentences and repeat the same stuff and restart the sentence, and sometimes I have a word that doesn't fit inside the sentence, so I don't know how to continue and then restart once again. And having an AI just assisting me in all that stuff would speed up my workflow a lot more than the way it is at its currently at the current state, the speed it is. Whatever. See, I cannot formulate a goddamn sentence anymore. What the hell, man? But yeah, so I see the positive in AI stuff for personal use, but also for, stuff like have it research, I don't know, the root cause of cancer, for example. Because it can do so many things at the same time. Something we cannot do as humans, We can maybe at max do 2 or 3 things at the same time, but no, they can do a lot more. You're just gonna upgrade the PC and they're gonna have a lot more resources to use. And once quantum computing is going to be a everyday thing, for us normal people, it's going to get even better. So yeah, I see a lot of potential in that. I mean, we could tell it to research all kinds of stuff, right? And gather all the information we already have, and maybe at some point even let it gather new information. And then we can skip the parts that take years, if not even centuries, to, research, find out, and have it do that for us in a lot shorter time frame. And that it's a revolution. That would be a revolution, because we advance a lot. But then of course there are the dangers, of the AI, well, starting to actually be independent, and AI can research stuff, grab it off the internet a lot quicker than we could. I mean, they're already better than that. They're already better than us in that regard, and it's only going to get worse. They're gonna get better in every goddamn other single aspect that exists, and at some point we're gonna be obsolete, and that's gonna suck. Yeah, at some point we are not going to understand AI, even though we made it, and that's a scary stuff. But yeah, I'll try not to focus on that, because that's going to be hopefully way down the line when I'm no longer alive, in 100 years or so. I don't know. I don't know how long I'm gonna live. I hope I'm not gonna live to over 100, because no, I see my mother has already issues, body issues, pain and stuff like that, and she is around 50. My grandmother has a lot more pain and stuff, and things not working properly anymore and whatever the shit, and she's in her late 70s. So yeah, 100, no, that's scary. That's scary, man. Gonna be a goddamn husk at that point. No, I don't want to live that long. I want to live as long as I'm healthy and well, yeah. But I'm getting way off topic again. But yeah, I see a lot of positive for AI in the future, but also a lot of negative. It's like the atom bomb, atom in general. We got the atom bomb, and we got atom for energy and stuff like that. It's like a two-sided bladed whatever sword. I don't know, a sword with 2 blades. No, where both sides are blades, are sharp. What's the saying? I don't care, let's continue.
So forth, but when it comes to this game and this implementation, as stunted as it was compared to the pre-release builds, Oblivion's Radiant AI still manages to suggest something really special for the player, a world that exists with or without you.
And
So
it
maybe I
really
was a
gets
bit
your mind
wrong when
going.
I was saying earlier that Bethesda overpromised and underdelivered with Oblivion's Radiant AI. I mean, it wasn't what they wanted to begin with, but it still managed to create a
Yeah.
really special form of immersion. Let's have another look at what Todd Howard said about Radiant AI.
I think it kind of makes sense. You know, they did not expect the outcome originally for the Radiant AI. That's why they gambled so high. Why they aimed so high to create, you know, a living world, living NPCs in a living world that feels alive and feels like you're not the only thing that moves it forward. You know, that's why you don't promise stuff before you even started working on it. Even then, because while working on stuff, on ideas, you sometimes realize that your idea is not turning out the way you expected it to be. No Man's Sky, for example, the best example. They expected it to turn out to be a lot more than it originally was when it was originally released. And one of the things is, for example, also the day-night cycle. So the day-night cycle continues even when you're not playing. So when you go back, it's suddenly a different, everything looks different. And that confused the playtesters, thinking it was a bug, and so they removed it. But that's the issue. They promised this beforehand, before they even had an idea if it works the way they intended it to work or not. And that's why you chill. Wait and see before you promise stuff like that, because it can turn out to be something you really did not expect it to be. And then at that point, like for example in Oblivion, you have to dumb it down. And people are gonna be like, why? Why? You promised? Todd Howard, you promised us. Why did you go back on your word? And everyone's gonna call you a liar, even though, you know, you just realized at some point that it does not work the way you thought it would. So yeah, don't promise stuff before you try it out if it even works the way you think it will. Yeah.
Way back before Oblivion came out. Where other games' NPCs require individual scripting, we can simply provide our NPCs with goals, and our system allows them to think on their own and complete the task. It allows us to have that same advanced behaviour, but on a massive scale. The other thing it does is give the game a more organic feel than scripting could. NPCs won't always be standing there doing the exact same thing at the same time. The fact that your experience and what's going on in the world around you in your game is a bit different than other people is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And you know, rereading that and looking at what Oblivion is like in its final form, it sounds pretty much like what he said. Those general goals were met, I think, and while Oblivion's AI isn't perfect, it does create a world that feels strangely alive. Sure,
yeah, definitely.
Talk about mud crabs a bit too often, and sure, it takes an NPC 3 hours to eat a single apple, but at the same time, they seem to live. They seem to feel alive. And a few other RPGs
and that's cool
to pull this off.
And I mean,
truly,
it was released in 2005 or 6, right?
Oblivion's world is a mess of strange behaviours.
It was really
that don't quite
ahead of its time.
But at other times, you'd swear they are. And for me, that makes Oblivion incredibly compelling.
Yeah.
As ever, there's always tons of player discussion around these games. Radiant AI is no exception. It's developed an almost mythological status, not just for what it accomplished, but for what it could have been. And players are more than happy to share stories about the everyday madcap occurrences they've come across. One player described an event in which an NPC stole food from another character's inventory, setting off an immediate fight. Typically, this minor infraction was the catalyst for complete chaos. The victim called for help, the guards got involved, and before the player even realised what was happening, a seemingly peaceful town square had erupted into a full-scale battle, all because someone had decided they were a little too hungry to follow the law. Other players have observed similarly bizarre AI interactions. In the Dark Brotherhood Sanctuary, one of the Argonian assassins was once seen getting into a fight with their own sibling, potentially over stolen food. And the situation escalated to the point where one of them was killed.
Damn!
Another player exploring the forests.
They killed him for food.
Across 2 Imperial Rangers engaged in a full-on duel, repeatedly firing arrows at each other until one of them finally collapsed. Most likely, one had accidentally hit the other while fighting a wild animal, and Oblivion's AI, determined to treat every action as intentional, refused to let the slight go unpunished. Now, this is, of course, your opportunity to share Radiant AI stories in the comments below. Pop down your memories, your funniest and craziest stories, while you watch the rest of the video. So, for me,
I can't really think of something right off the top of my head.
That Even in the stripped back form, it creates the illusion of a world that's constantly moving, shifting, and reacting. And yeah, while Bethesda marketed it as revolutionary and we've accepted that the final form did somewhat meet their promises, the truth is it wasn't entirely new. It could be argued that earlier games, particularly Ultima 7, out in 1992,
Okay, I don't know that game.
2001.
Never played that.
Arcanum, also in 2001.
Don't know about that
already
either.
attempted similarly AI-driven worlds, arguably with even more success in some areas. Though I will defer to experts in this area, this is what I've come across in my research on Radiant AI implementations, or AI implementations that would have met Todd Howard's promises. Ultima 7, for example, according to my research, featured NPCs with their own schedules, needs, and routines. They worked jobs, went home, and even reacted dynamically to the player's actions. In some cases, it seemed that their behaviour was maybe even more advanced than Oblivion's. If players killed too many sheep in a given area, it could disrupt the local economy, leading to food shortages. The system extended beyond basic scripting, allowing for genuine cause and effect changes in the world. In a similar vein, Gothic
sounds cool.
A world where NPCs had unique personalities and tasks. They went to work, ate meals, and reacted to the player in ways that felt more organic than most RPGs of the time. If the player drew their weapon in a town, NPCs would warn them. If the player didn't comply, they'd escalate the situation, potentially leading to a fight. It wasn't a scripted response, but rather an actual AI-driven system that seemed to determine how characters responded to threats. In this context, Oblivion's AI
sounds dope.
Was maybe not as groundbreaking as Todd Howard claimed, given that games like Ultima 7 and Gothic had seemingly already done similar things. That being said, those systems could have been seen as an inspiration, of course. It could be said, though, that while those other games existed, they were more niche titles. Oblivion was the game that potentially brought these ideas into the mainstream. The average player...
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it like that, it definitely makes sense. I heard about Ultima, but I've never seen anything of it, I think. The third one, Arcanum or whatever it was called, I've never heard of it. And Gothic I know about because it was on a free CD, on a like a PC magazine or something. PC Games magazine, I think. And it came with 3 games on a CD with every issue. And I had one with Gothic 3. I never seen Gothic 1 or 2 or something like about those games, but I've seen some of the Gothic 3 stuff. Tried to play it, but it was my thing. So yeah, I definitely heard of 2 at least of these games, Ultima and Gothic, and pretty sure they're at least quite big names. They're sort of big names in the RPG game community, right? The Western RPG game community, if I'm not mistaken. So were they really that niche? Because usually I don't know about niche stuff. I only know about the mainstream stuff because I'm a mainstream bitch. I'm a mainstream hoe, sucking the mainstream dick all day, like, and eating pussy, punching the dick in the pussy. Yeah. If I know about them, then surely it cannot be that niche, right? That's how I see it. Tell me. If you know, tell me. Tell me in the comment section down below whether I'm right or wrong. Alright? Do it. Now. Right? Fucking now. I'm gonna get angry. And my small pee-pee is gonna get hard. You don't want that, so fucking tell me. Even if you make up stuff, just tell me. God damn it.
Had never seen an RPG where NPCs lived their own lives, where they had jobs and homes and schedules that weren't just tied to the player's progress. Another interesting comparison could be made with Ultima Online, an MMO game that featured an ecosystem where player actions could have unintended consequences. If too many wolves were killed in an area, for instance, the rabbit population would explode. If too many rabbits existed, crops would
in an online game.
Economic collapse. Oblivion, in its earliest builds, had similar mechanics planned, but they were ultimately removed to keep the world from descending into chaos. Now,
yeah, it makes sense.
Oblivion's Radiant AI was truly revolutionary. One thing is certain: it left a lasting impression on me, and it would seem a great many others. Even today, nearly 2 decades later, players still share stories of the game's bizarre and unpredictable NPC interactions on...
Personally, I think they managed to achieve like the perfect middle ground. You know, it's not the perfect example of independently existing AI characters NPCs and stuff like that. And it's also not so dumbed down that it feels like it did not use... At some point, if you dumb things down, it feels like it's wasted potential. You know, it wasted its potential and stuff like that. And I think Oblivion just hit it perfectly in the middle. Does it make sense? I hope so. I've lost the ability to reflect on what I'm saying around an hour ago, so... Yeah, but that's what I think. I think they nailed it. They nailed it. Not perfect, but also not bad. You know, it's right in the middle. It's good. Yep.
Forums. Videos of Radiant AI going haywire can be found all over YouTube.
Yeah.
And I have no
Like I
doubt
said, there are
there will
even
be
channels,
comments
entire channels dedicated to that.
below this very video. For some people, Oblivion's Radiant AI represents an ambitious experiment that was never fully realised. For others, it's a really core part of why Oblivion remains so beloved.
Yeah.
Not despite its quirkiness, but because of it. For all its flaws,
Yeah, exactly.
I
That's
feel
what
that
I think.
Oblivion's version of Radiant AI, reined in or not, gave the game a sense of life. It wasn't perfect, far from it, but it amped up the immersion.
Made you
in a way
think.
no scripted system could ever.
Made you imagine.
Even when the AI was clearly struggling against the game's limitations, it still felt like it was trying. There's something charming about how Oblivion reaches beyond its capabilities, how it asks us as players to suspend disbelief just enough to buy into its version of a living world.
Yeah.
NPCs are weird and robotic, the dialogue is stilted, and the sudden zoom-ins during conversations make even the most normal of interactions feel...
And the constant moving of the eyes.
Those awkward moments work. They elevate Oblivion from being just another game into something really special. A game that manages to be both incredibly immersive and deeply, unintentionally comedic. Look at it this way. If we take later Bethesda games as polished theatre productions with every line meticulously memorised, Oblivion is a bizarre experimental skill play. The teachers are in the wings, prompting the performers to forget their lines. The acting is clumsy, the makeup and stuff is incredible, but somehow that makes it all the more lovable.
Yeah.
And so
it's like you can get some satisfaction from watching something that's really high production, you know, with high production value and very professional. But you can also get a lot of satisfaction from watching, you know, some amateurs doing and trying really hard to give you an interesting time. Like, for example, theater stuff, right? You got the big ones with the big amount of people behind them and money, and you know you're gonna get a polished experience the way it was intended to be. But if you go to, I don't know, a theater thing, like school theater stuff, you know, it's gonna be janky. People are gonna forget their lines, maybe even, and stumble, and it's not gonna be perfect, but that in itself gives its own sort of charm, you know? And you can get a lot of entertainment just from that. Does it make sense? Right? Yeah, it makes sense, right? People with ambitions, even if the end product is not as polished as it could be, if the ambition is there, it just feels very charming to witness, you know? Like a school talent show. Even if they can't sing, if they put their heart into it, it's still gonna be entertaining. It's not gonna be good. It's not gonna be good, but it's gonna be entertaining, at least. Meanwhile, those that just try to make a quick buck and don't give a shit about the outcome at all, you can pretty much tell that that's shit. You know, EA games, Ubisoft games, for example, as well. You can tell they lost their passion a long time ago, and they just make what works. And to use systems and microtransactions and stuff like that to really maximize their profit at the expense of the entire experience of the game. And that is not entertaining at all. So yeah, there's two sides to every coin. In this case, I named 3 sides, so 3 sides to a triangle. Yeah, that's the smartest thing I've ever said in my whole entire life. Because triangles have 3 lines. But if it's a 3D pyramid, then it does not work. The analogy does not work at all. Shit.
In the end, while Oblivion's Radiant AI was never quite what Bethesda initially envisioned, it still achieved something remarkable. It gave Oblivion a unique charm, one that no other RPG has managed to replicate. For me,
exactly.
The game's world feels alive, even if that life is often hilariously flawed. It's an uncanny simulation of reality, a world that at times seems to follow its own bizarre logic. And that's why it'll always stick in my mind, why I'll always go back to it. And Radiant...
It doesn't feel like a simulation of real life. It feels more like a simulation of what life in Oblivion would be like. You know, it feels like its own world through that. It doesn't try to emulate, well, they tried, but they did not succeed in emulating what actual life here in real life is like. And instead it created this weird monstrosity that's really entertaining to observe. And it feels just like if I wouldn't live in reality, if my reality was actually Oblivion, the world of Oblivion. It's not the place, it's Cyrodiil, but yeah, I mean, the world of Oblivion. Inside the Oblivion game, there we go. I'd imagine I'd be acting like them as well, because it feels like that's their reality. That's how the reality inside the game works. It's not our reality. It's its own thing. That's what I think. Yeah, that's why I like it. It is so unique, you know? It's not trying to be reality as we know it. It's trying to be just its own reality. Tell me how many times I said the word reality in just such a short time frame. I don't know. It was probably a lot. I blacked out. What happened? Did I grow an inch? No, my penis is still extremely small. Damn. Fuck.
The AI is a defining part of the game's identity. It's the reason why...
Without it, it wouldn't be Oblivion.
I find the story around the creation of Radiant AI really fascinating, and still find the final version in the game manages to surprise me. And it's not just me. As we've said, lots of players are still sharing stories and videos, still laughing at the quirks, still exploring Cyrodiil and stumbling upon totally mad emergent gameplay. It's why, despite all the jank, all the weird animations, and all the mad Radiant dialogue conversations, Oblivion is so damned lovable. So if you haven't shared a story yet...
It's like a kid that drew something. It's adorable.
And with that, see you next time.
Yeah. That was good. That was really good. Right? Is that it? Yeah, that's it. Alright. I talked a lot, but... Yeah, you should know by now if you watch my channel. I talk a lot, especially when my imagination is tickled. And I don't know what it is. I can't really put it perfectly in a sentence. Why the idea of the Radiant AI in Oblivion tickles something inside my brain that makes me wanna ponder stuff endlessly. But it does. Yeah, this was a good video. There's a small suggestion I'd like to make. I think the background video, you know, could have benefited from a couple more gameplay scenes, because the last part, where did it start? Around here. So for about 8 minutes or so, 7 or 8 minutes, there's just the gameplay of him flying through the landscape, and I think that kind of got boring real quick, so I didn't pay attention to the video, the visuals itself, and just listened. So that's something I could suggest you to so you can improve the viewing experience, because but I mean, there were a lot of them throughout the video, but every now and then he spliced in, you know, gameplay and stuff like that, and that made it more interesting to look at. But in the home stretch, it was basically just that. So yeah, but the video was good. Don't get me wrong, that's just a small thing you could improve on, in my opinion. But aside from that, it was still a really good video. It was really well researched. I learned a lot, surprisingly. A lot of stuff I did not know about the Radiant AI and stuff like that. So yeah, it was definitely a really good video. I'm trying to think, but that's the only criticism I can think of. Yeah, that's all. Yeah. Alright, so before I end this video, like always, go into the video description, click the first link in the video description under the credits tab to get to the original video by Shades of Slay. Leave him a like, leave him a comment, tell him hello, how are you? Goodbye, bye, hello, hi, goodbye, good day. Tell him that. And obviously subscribe to him. He deserves it. This was a really well-researched video. Really well-worded. I liked it. I learned a lot, and it was good. It was really good. I love the Radiant AI in Oblivion. It's just so... It's so goofy, and I really love it. I hope we'll see something like that in the future ever again. I hope this isn't where it dies, because... I don't know, I like it. And obviously I'm not alone with that conclusion. Yeah. And in my comment section down below, tell me what you want me to react to next. Maybe another video by him. Maybe a video by someone else. About something else. For something else. Being something else. Something else that's something else. Just let me know. But preferably tell me a video title or something like that. Because if it's about a topic I'm unfamiliar with, I don't know what's good and what isn't, right? So yeah, do that. Or if you want me to pick out something myself, I can do that as well. Like I've been doing mostly on this channel. I just pick out something random that looks or sounds interesting and then just pray to God that it is entertaining. And so far, I haven't watched a singular one that wasn't entertaining. So yeah, I'm doing a pretty good job, if I may say so myself. Hell yeah! High five to myself, bitch! Yeah! Anyway, yeah, tell me about which one you prefer, or maybe even both. I don't care. Just tell me, and I'm happy to oblige either way. This has been the Small Penis Man. Small Penis Man out. Man, I swear, I really love it. I love Oblivion, man. It's just funny putting a poisoned apple in their inventory and their girl like, oh, oh, It's so dumb. I love it. I love it because that's how I would do it. You could put a poisoned apple in my goddamn ass pouch and I would dig it out and eat it and poison myself and grunt and then die. That's me. That's me. That's why I like the Radiant Eye. It's as dumb as I am. Damn! Now I figured out the stars. That's why I like it. Cause, you know, real recognizes real. And in this case, dumb recognizes dumb. Oh yeah, that's me. I'm dumb. But at least I have a small penis. So if you have a big penis, then you may be smart, but you suck as a human being. I have a small penis, so I'm perfect. I'm going to heaven. You're going to hell with your gigantic ass, monstrous cock. Oh, fucking sinner. God damn it. Fuck you for choosing a big dick when you were born. That sounded weird. Damn. As your... Fuck you. Bye.